Nightlife on ABC Radio. You're on Nightlife with Suzanne Hill. Well, have you ever seen, I'm sure you have, one of those incredible pictures of a wave, maybe a surfer seen through a wave tube, or the water captured in perfect clarity in that moment that it breaks? And you've probably looked at that picture and thought, well, maybe you haven't. How has the photographer captured that moment? Well, tonight I want to introduce you to a man who's become renowned as one of the best photographers of waves in the world. His name is Clark Little. For his day job, he runs into the surf, lies under the breaking waves, and does whatever he has to get the perfect picture of a wave and capture those moments that disappear instantly into froth. Well, he's just released a stunning book of pictures called The Art of the Waves, and Clark Little joins me from his home in Hawaii. Hi, Clark. Welcome to Nightlife.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Now, you've been body surfing since you were a kid. You were always at home in the ocean. When did that turn into a passion for photography?
Well, it's kind of interesting. My father is or was a photography teacher, so he did that for 30 years. I love, of course, the ocean from when I was a real young child, playing in the ocean and body surfing and in the shore break a lot. And so photography, believe it or not, I think maybe in my later 30s is when I really started to get into it. I was always in the ocean. I surfed. I did all those things, body surf, boogie board, did all those fun things in the ocean. It's kind of like my second home, but not until probably 38, 39 is when I actually got a camera and took it into the ocean to capture, trying to start capturing waves. So
was it a bit of trial and error in those early days trying to figure out how to capture a wave? I mean, are there manuals on that kind of thing?
I mean, this was pre-GoPro, so it was a little harder. It was kind of like a point and shoot, you'd one at a time. I just bought a little housing from Amazon.com, put it together and basically shot one at a time. So and I after I saw the potential, like I started getting some really cool shots. I shared it with my family, my brother, and showed him all these images I was getting, because no one was really shooting shore break at that time. It was just me, myself, and I, and nobody wanted to get pounded. I loved it. So it was kind of one of those things where, I was passionate about it, and I was getting looks that no one really was getting, with the sand sucking up and kind of artistic, waves with five faces, breaking over. And anyway, unique looks that I don't think people have, former photographers or photographers were getting, and it struck a nerve, I think. And so that's when I ended up getting a professional camera. I talked to this guy, Brian Beelman, who was a professional wave photographer, and he set me up with what to get, the housing and the camera, and the rest is history, man. I learned it, kind of winged it. The settings, once you get the settings right, it's all about getting in the right spot, right, of a wave. If you know where the wave's going to break and how it's going to break, you know where to be, to place yourself to get that shot. That's the most important thing. I mean, if you don't know the ocean, you don't know how the waves break and the wind and all that stuff, it's a lot harder. So I had an advantage there. The only thing I had to learn is taking the photos, getting back to my computer, editing. I mean, all that stuff I really learned quickly. And that's kind of how it went.
Some photographers of animals, might sit in the woods for days waiting for their moment, or I've heard of people sitting in mountains for weeks, waiting for the perfect sunset. How do you actually plan photographing waves? Like, how far out can you tell if there's a wave coming that you want to photograph?
Yeah, it's nowadays the technology is pretty good with the weather and the waves. I mean, Surfline and other various places you can kind of look up, and now with buoys you can pretty much read 12 hours in advance, give or take, a couple hours. So technology is good. The night before we start getting excited, I would say, I start texting my friends and say, hey, it could be on tomorrow, the shore break could be pumping. So there's not I don't sit in the cave waiting for a week, that's for darn sure. But at the same time, I mean, I'm anticipating it does take sometimes, and they're unpredictable. Sometimes waves, you expect them to be big. and they're small, and vice versa. It's small, then boom, it comes up and it's huge and gnarly. So nature is awesome, and that's the cool thing. There's no real, there's similarities to waves, but there's no the waves aren't exactly the same, all
Yeah.
of them.
But what are you waiting for? If you see something on the forecast, is it the height? I mean, and do you want to make sure it's sunny as well as big waves? Like, what's the sort of perfect setting to take a photo?
Yeah, so I mean, glassy conditions or light offshore, wind blowing from the land onto the ocean, which makes beautiful waves. Clear water, which we have tons of over here. So the clarity, and then you want a beautiful white sandy beach, no runoff. And I enjoy sand bottom. I mean, I do shoot some reefs, but mostly sand, just because, I mean, to me, it's more comfortable. I don't mind, you can bounce off the sand. You can't really bounce off the reef. I mean, you can, but you can get injured. So for some reason in my head, I feel more comfortable in large shore break, just because I can push off the ground. But yeah, I mean, we have coconut trees, we have beautiful sunsets. Depending on the spot you go, you kind of already know where the sun is going to rise and where the sun is going to set. So there's a lot of photos where there's a lot of reflections and the sun is kind of in the tube, and people kind of captivates them. It brings them kind of into the barrel when you see that sun kind of traveling around the barrel, in the backdrop. So that's kind of a cool thing. But yeah, there's morning, there's night, there's rainbows. Sometimes you can even capture, with the wave breaking. There's so much in Hawaii to photograph. That's why I traveled a lot. I've done a lot of travel, tours and book tours and different things. But man, I tell you, we have everything here in Hawaii, man, everything from the sunsets to the rainbows to the sharks to the dolphins to the
The
turtles.
man does not need to leave home. You just pop down to the beach
Yes,
and you've got it all for you.
3 minutes down the hill I drive, and then I got the 7 Mile Miracle at my footsteps. It's a dream. It really is.
Clark Little is with me. He is a photographer, predominantly of waves, and he's just released a stunning book of pictures called The Art of the Waves. I know you've had some hair-raising moments there waiting for these enormous waves to crash at Keiki on Oahu, where you live. Tell us about the waves that are there.
Yeah, so I mean, Keiki is a special spot. I would say it's my favorite in the world. It's sort of about a mile away from Pipeline, but it's all sand bottom, and it's really unique because there's some areas where there's second reef, waves break and then they reform. This area, it comes from the deep ocean, and it just breaks right either on the sand or on a shallow sandbar. So there's a lot more power, almost like double or triple other areas. And what that does is, it makes for kind of a unique, thick, abstract looking art piece. Like a lot of the sand gets sucked up and you get little bubbles and just different thing. It's Keiki's waves are always unique and different and heavier and stronger, and it shows in the photographs. So that's kind of why I love to go there. And the water is clean. The sandy beaches are just white. And I mean, like I was saying, it's heaven, man. It's a really nice place. And that's my favorite place to shoot.
So how much of a beating do you take? Because you've really sort of been thrown about by those waves quite a few times, haven't you?
Yeah, I pick and choose a little more wisely as I get older, but man, I've got tossed and smashed and, separated shoulder and, housing to the head multiple times, staples and stitches and, different things. It is I feel like I'm a kind of a good waterman. I'm obviously kind of gotta know what you're doing when you're out in 10 foot, 15-foot shore break. But at the same time, anything can happen. I've been out there at times where there's like 10 waves nonstop. I can't get in because the rip's pulling me out and the waves are breaking on me. And then you just get in this little cycle and it's scary. I thought, probably 3 or 4 times there was, where I was panicking, dropped my housing. I mean, trying to get up to get air and nonstop waves coming. So there's moments where I fear for my life. I mean, it's not all the time. Like I said, I try to select the days that are, easy to get in and out and get that perfect shot. But there are times where even knowing, what I do and how long I've been in the ocean, all my life, I still get into those unpredictable moments where I'm scared and I fear for my life. So there are some dangers, but at the same time, I love it. And I mean, not that part, but I love getting tossed around and I love the shore break. And that's why I try to get these unique shots and share them with people, give them some visions that they probably can't get for themselves. And it's fun. It's fun to see the reactions of people all around the world. And it's just something I do. It's my passion.
Yeah, there must be some amazing adrenaline having, been beaten up and floundering out of the water, but knowing to yourself, I'm sure I've got an incredible shot there.
Oh, it's so much. Yeah. Adrenaline is definitely a big part of it. I mean, I'm a pretty hyper guy. My nickname's Turbo. So I race around. I hustle around and enjoy getting the shot though. When it's big, we're frothing. Like I was saying the night before, we're getting excited. I'm already excited and getting my equipment ready, before the next day and having it ready to go and get those shots.
Now, I want you to tell us about that. You've got a technique called the run and grun. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's actually run and gun, like shoot. So what we do when the waves are coming in and there's no swells for a while, so there's no sandbar, right? So it breaks, all the water comes and it breaks on the dry sand. So running and gunning, meaning you sprint down there. You don't need swim fins because it literally breaks on the dry sand or wet sand, but it's not breaking out from the ocean. It's right there on the sand. So you run down there, no fins, and you place yourself. You can kind of lie on your belly, put your camera out, and the wave actually throws into a barrel onto the dry sand and explodes. So it gives a really crazy, I guess, photograph, right? You can get a really unique image when it does that. And it's fun. You get tossed up 50 feet over the berm on the top, and usually there's a crowd of people cheering you on. And it's different. It's not a sport, but I'll tell you, it's something that I love doing. And there's a handful now of people out there doing it. I mean, with GoPros and technology, I'm sure there are people in Australia just loving the heck out of it. You see them now. You see kids rolling around. You see older people rolling around in the shore break, and it's a healthy thing. It's a healthy thing, I think, to do, and it's nice to see people getting their own shots.
Yeah, I love the idea of you having an audience while you're being thrown up in there and everybody cheering you. Do you
It is.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So, Clark, given how, it sounds like I'd get out there and be too terrified, and if I did, I wouldn't go back for days. But you have to stay fit, don't you? Do you actually actively go, I need to be fit so that I can do this job?
I do actually. In the wintertime, just going out all the time. And if I go shoot for 3 to 4 hours, I swear I must swim miles and miles and miles. That keeps me in shape. But in the summertime, if I'm just shooting turtles or just on shore, I do like a probably hour to hour half workout. Just simple things, pull-ups, push-ups, lunges, just enough to get, my adrenaline pumping, my heart pumping, and keeping myself in shape in case the waves do come up. Cause I've been gassed, there's a couple of times where it's just huge sets coming in and I won't even get the shot to say, you know what, I'm going to go out and, catch my breath. So it's important to be in shape, and I'm 53 now. So I'm not a spring chicken, but I'm still able to do it. I'm still able to get out there with the kids and shoot and love what I do. So as long as I'm still able and healthy, and I'm going to continue to do what I do and have a great time doing it.
Yeah, Clark Little is here. His book is called The Art of the Waves. Look, if you haven't heard of Clark or seen any of his photos, I would really recommend searching on the internet because he's got some absolute stunners. There's some photos too of marine animals. That's something you actually started doing accidentally, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I started with shore break, of course, and then I ended up, I think summertime came, and then I was like, okay, well, hey, I got the camera, I might as well go shoot other things. So I went down, I started shooting turtles. That was probably my second thing that I kind of really got into. And then I was like, hey, you know what? There's sharks out here, shark tours and stuff. So I ended up going out with One Ocean Diving, which is Juan and Ocean Ramsey, and they're like the gurus at sharks. And I learned how to hang with big 15-foot tiger sharks, and it was just unbelievable, the experiences that I've had, I guess, through this whole photography gig I got, and there's, like I was saying before, there's dolphins, there is so many different animals and waves and things that it's exciting. Every day there's something different. If you really want to go out, and now with drones and other things, you can get different angles. I'm always out there trying to capture something new, and
And so are there still ideas you have? Because I would have thought after all this time, you would have sort of taken every wave that there was. Is there a sort of holy grail of a picture you imagine taking?
I don't think there's an end to it, which is kind of good. So long I'm still stimulated and kind of like ambitious and trying to get something different. If the waves are perfect, I'm having fun no matter what. I could go out and shoot for 3 hours and it can be cloudy and rainy, and I'm still having fun getting in the tube, and having it explode. It's more about loving to be there. It's not work when you enjoy being out there shooting, and that's kind of like it is. And being your own boss, you don't have to worry about, I have to get this shot, and it's this way, here's the script. I just go out there, I do what I love, and it all comes natural. I get back in my computer, I look at the photos and go, holy cow, so something stands out, I'll edit it and I'll go ahead, process it, and I'll send it to the printer and, to our gallery. And and then share that passion, share it. I hope people feel the same adrenaline rush I do when they look at that photo and go, wow, that's really cool. That's touch people is really nice these days.
Yeah. Now there's just one picture I wanted to ask you about. It's a picture of a shark, and you've got it viewed from both under the water, and you've got that sort of classic fin protruding from the water above. And it's this sort of technique, I think you call it your under-over technique. Can you just tell us about that picture and capturing that?
Yes. So usually what you do is you have a bigger port, right? Which is that front part of your housing. That way it'll enable you, usually it's about 12 inches. And that way you can get half underwater and half above water. It's a little tricky with the focus, but luckily with this one, it captured it. And I was able to get that kind of half and half, and it just kind of looks cool, right? Seeing the shark underneath and then the fin above. But yeah, it's a process. You get different housings and you have different size lenses, different cameras. I got a handful of all kinds of stuff. I got 10, housings. It's called CMT housings. They're carbon fiber housings. That's what I've been using lately. And I use all Nikon cameras. Mainly fisheye, I would say, is because I want to get the whole thing. I want to get the barrel. I want to get the top of the barrel. I want to get the sand underneath. I want to get the backdrop, the mountains, the trees. So I usually use fisheye. If I have to crop in a little bit, I will. But that's my go-to, is like a Nikon D5 with a 16 millimeter fisheye lens and a CMT water housing.
Well, that photo of the shark really struck me, that's for sure. So if any of our listeners happen to be heading to Oahu, you've got a gallery there, do you?
Yes, we have a gallery in Haleiwa, and that's been there for about, I think, 8 years. So that's really awesome to be able to showcase my work right in Haleiwa. It's about 15 minutes from my home, so I can go down there and check things out. And now with this new book being published, kind of exciting because Australia, I think, will have books right there locally, which is really cool. We've never had that before. We've always had it on our website and our gallery, but then, shipping is so much money and it's just kind of a pain. So it's really cool that I think Australia is going to be getting the books. I think within a week, I think they're going to be accessible for you guys. And I'm stoked on that because we have a lot of awesome fans from Australia, and we always have been there. They've been there since the beginning. So I'm kind of proud that we can actually, deliver a book for people to check out there in Australia.
Yeah. And what about our waves? Have you checked them out?
You know what? I haven't. And that's on my list because it's just a 10-hour flight, right? To go straight to Australia. Yeah. So I'd love to. I know Barton. I met a few of other people, the old school Barton Lynch, and there's a lot of other guys that I've that I could probably go and hang out with and do a little safari at the same time. I think my wife is talking about it. So it's on the bucket list for sure. It's a beautiful place. I would love to get out to Australia one day.
And we are sure you could take some beautiful pictures of our waves too, because I know, look, you've got the best ones there in Hawaii, but ours aren't all chopped liver either. Hey, Clark, thanks so much for having a chat. And look, the photos are just so beautiful. Even for people who don't get into surf and sort of quake at the thought, you can just immerse yourself in those pictures and really imagine yourself there. So congratulations! Thanks so much for chatting with us on Nightlife.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and all the kind words. I appreciate that.
That is Clark Little, photographer of waves. His book is called The Art of the Waves.
You're listening to Nightlife with Suzanne Hill on ABC Radio.